Hey everybody, with the deck here. Today I'm going to give you my ranking of the PS2 and PS3 console SOCOMs. I am not going to include the handheld games, only because I really haven't played them. I do plan on playing them in the future, and when I do, I'll stream it live, and then after the fact, it'll be available on my YouTube, so keep an eye out for that. I am excited for that, though. I think they're going to be pretty cool. I'm doing a different format of video, as you can tell right now. It's a little bit more casual, relaxed of an atmosphere, almost like a podcast style. Um, I just wanted to do this a little bit more simply. If you guys like this type of video, please let me know in the comments. If so, I'll just make more videos in this style, casual. If you enjoy this video and you'd like to support me, then please give it a thumbs up and share it. And if you like more content, then please hit the sub button. So, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go from SOCOM 1 all the way through SOCOM 4. This isn't my ranking. I'm going to just give like an overview of them, how I feel about them individually. And then at the end, I will actually give you my ranking of my least liked to my most liked. So we'll go worst to first. So, we'll start off with the original, SOCOM 1. This released in August 2002. When it was released, it came out with 10 maps, which we're all familiar with, of course. This was a really good SOCOM, and it really still holds up today. It has really good hit detection. The fast time to kill is pretty popular. I think that's the reason why a lot of people really like SOCOM 1. For the people who do really like SOCOM 1, it's because of the fast time to kill. It takes like 2 to 3 shots to kill a person if you can hit them. And I also really like the simple gameplay concept. Like, it's a pretty simple game in general between the modes and just the way the game is designed. It's actually pretty simple. At the time, I'm sure it wasn't considered simple, but here today, you look back on it, especially when you compare it to the other SOCOM, it's pretty simple, in my opinion at least. Maybe you don't agree, but that's fine. Um, the bad is it had a really poor user interface. Like every time that I play it feels clunky. At the time, I'm sure it was fine, but it's just I don't like the layout of it. It's really hard to navigate. It doesn't look that good, which is funny because there's actually some aspects of the user interface that I do like, and I actually wished that like SOCOM 2 had, for example, like the drop down at the top of your screen where it tells you somebody fragged somebody. That just looks better. It's less clunky. In SOCOM 2, I hate it. It's really annoying. It's so big and in the way, in my opinion. Um, Also, I put this in the bad category, even though it's like so bad you love it. The voice acting, it's almost funny. If you look at it objectively, the voice acting is bad, but I actually like the voice acting. It makes me laugh, like it makes you wonder what they were doing back in the day when they were like recording these scripts with like I'll try to put one in here if I can find one, but the SOCOM one voice acting was so bad it was good. But I put it in a bad category, just being objective. Um, Next you have SOCOM 2. This released in November of 2003, so just over a year later. It released with 22 total maps, the 10 from SOCOM 1 and 12 original maps. It later added 3 maps via DLC. Well, not DLC, HDD. You had to get the PlayStation Magazine map or disc, and you had to have a fat PS2, and you had to have a HDD, a hard disk drive, to even play it. So I feel like those really went under the radar, even though they're really cool maps, and I enjoy playing them today. Um, the goods of SOCOM 2 is it does have an improved user interface in most areas. Like I said a moment ago, there's some aspects of the SOCOM 1 interface that I prefer, but overall, they did improve on the in SOCOM 2 on the interface, the style of it, the layout, the navigation, the overall user interface. Like there's too much to really sit there and nitpick about it. It also added a lot of stuff too in the online, friends list and clans and whatnot. Some of those might have been available in SOCOM 1. I don't play SOCOM 1 as much as I used to. I actually started on SOCOM 2. So I was introduced to SOCOM shortly after SOCOM 2 came out. I loved it so much that I went back and played SOCOM 1 just to experience it. And I remember back in the day being like, wow, this is a really cool game. Um, but of course, I went back to SOCOM 2. But they feel so similar. SOCOM 1 and 2 are just like, they feel incredibly similar overall of games. Just SOCOM 2 is like the natural progression of SOCOM, in my opinion. Like you'd expect it to be when they're improving the game. SOCOM 2, I feel like, took the natural progression and steps that you'd expect. Um, Also had more maps, so of course that's always nice. You get all the cool SOCOM 1 maps that you enjoyed. A lot of those maps were actually tweaked and improved in some ways, like one example being Frostfire. The underground tunnels in SOCOM 1, they're not connected in the middle. So you basically have two underground tunnel areas in SOCOM 1, but in SOCOM 2, they actually connected them. So that makes sense. Uh, Death Trap, just throwing out another example there. In SOCOM 1, Death Trap, the underbelly or the underground of Death Trap was actually a decent bit larger. Where the hostages were, they were actually like underneath one of the ramps, tucked in the back. In SOCOM 2, they actually got rid of some of the underground, so they actually reduced it in size, and they added the gates and stuff. Rat's Nest. They changed a lot of stuff in, I think, every SOCOM 1 map on SOCOM 2. I don't think they're identical. I don't think any of them are one to one. Some good stuff, some bad stuff, but more maps I put in a good category because who doesn't like more maps? We want more variety. Also, smoother gameplay mechanics. I'm not saying better gameplay mechanics because there are some things that I think SOCOM 1 did better. Um, like I do like the faster time to kill in SOCOM 1, and I feel like SOCOM 1 had better hit detection than SOCOM 2 did. But SOCOM 2 just was smoother in a lot of areas. The character movement, the game, the way you interact with the game, again, something that I feel like was like a natural progression from SOCOM 1 to the next SOCOM. You'd expect that. You'd expect there to be some kinks and stuff that they iron out. For the bad, SOCOM 2, for the bad, I put the higher time to kill, which could be annoying sometimes. It was good and bad. The higher time to kill was bad because if you ran it behind a person, you start shooting them in the back, and they might turn around and actually what should have been an instant kill now might become a fight where you might actually lose, even though you had the jump on them. Um, you could put that in a good category if you're the person who's being shot in the back, because you still have a chance. Also, worse hit detection. I think SOCOM 1, or I'm sorry, SOCOM 2 did not have as good of a hit detection system as SOCOM 1 did. Um, I don't know if it's like a server thing. In my mind, it almost feels like SOCOM 2 had more things going on that maybe the server is at fault for what felt like not as good of a hit detection. And maybe I'm wrong, but maybe that's what it was. Maybe SOCOM 1 being a simpler concept game, maybe that actually helped it because maybe there's less going on under the hood. So the game was able to just perform better. Maybe, who knows? SOCOM 3, that released in October of 2005. So this one was actually almost 2 years later. Um, when it released, it came out with 11 total original maps. Um, like original maps from the campaign. No SOCOM 1 or 2 maps. What was really cool about how SOCOM 3 did their maps was when you played the campaign, you could actually see you would go from like Stormfront into Boneyard, or Fault, like Harvester into Fault into Blackwoods. They're like the online maps were just like one big continued map. It was pretty cool in the campaign. I liked that a lot. Um, They later added a few maps from SOCOM 1 and 2 as DLC maps. Frostfire, Crossroads, Fishhook, the HD maps. So you have Liberation, Last Bastion, and After Hours. They might have added more. Top of my head, I don't remember for sure. SOCOM 3 actually, I felt had really smooth gameplay mechanics. Some examples being the way that your character could go from like the crouch to the from stand crouch prone with like really smooth and visually pleasing, and it felt realistic, you know. Also, the way that you could like be crouched and walking, but be, you know, like walking a little bit faster. Like in SOCOM 1 and 2, you could crouch walk, but your character would go at one speed, and if you went a little bit too fast, they started like walking or running. SOCOM 3, you could actually be more stealthy. So, like, they really did a good job of upping the stealth capabilities, I guess you'd call it, you know? It just played smoother with the mechanics of it, which some people, I feel like some people may not like that because it actually felt a little bit different. SOCOM 2 was like more of a stiff. SOCOM 1 and 2 were like stiffer games, you know, the way the characters moved and the way your fights were, they were a little bit more stiff, but not in a bad way. But they were more stiff when you compare them to SOCOM 3. SOCOM 3, the gameplay mechanics felt again like a more natural progression for a newer game of the same game. Also, I felt like SOCOM 3 had like low key good hit detection. Like, I'll be playing and like I'll hear people complain about the hit detection, thinking that they're like not hitting their person. And I felt the same way early on because when you're shooting, you can't really tap fire, or you can't tap fire as easily. And when you're burst or holding the trigger, you just feel like your bullet spread is going everywhere. But the game, the your character's accuracy is actually pretty good, and I feel like the hit detection was better than people give it credit for. Um, some of the things that I didn't particularly like about SOCOM 3, which is actually some stuff that a lot of people really do enjoy, like the large maps. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't dislike the large maps, but I prefer the smaller maps with the smaller gameplay, you know, your 8v8s and whatnot in a smaller environment. I don't know if I like that more because of the faster action or if it's just what I'm used to from the original SOCOM, you know, SOCOM 1 and 2. But I did not prefer the large maps, and I really didn't prefer the vehicles. I felt like SOCOM 3 Zipper was having a little bit of an identity crisis where I think personally that they were chasing Battlefield. Like they wanted to make a game that was like Battlefield, bigger maps, vehicles, things like that. I don't know if that's true, but that is the vibe that I get from it. So maybe I'm completely wrong and it was just how I feel. But that is how I feel. I felt like they were chasing Battlefield 3. I still liked it. I liked the big maps, they're really cool. But I do prefer the small maps overall. I also did not like how much more convoluted I felt the ranking system was. Which is a good and a bad thing, I guess, you know? Like, it's good to have more ranks because, you know, like, when you. SOCOM 2, you had ensign, lieutenant, lieutenant commander, captain, and admiral. So you had however many players really divided across like five ranks. So it wasn't really that good of a way to break them up. SOCOM 3, I couldn't even tell you how many ranks there were because as soon as I got to SOCOM 3 and I saw the new ranking system, I was lost. And I never learned it. I don't know why. I just didn't have the interest in learning it. Maybe because there's so many that I was just like, no, thank you. I never paid attention to my rank in SOCOM 3 like I did previously before. The good thing is, you know, more room to move around from a rank perspective, you know, like I feel like for a person who wants to see more immediate results, it's possible to do that in SOCOM 3. Um, but I couldn't even tell you how many ranks there were. But I know there's a lot of them. So good saying that you could have that more movement. Bad saying because I felt like it was more complicated. But maybe that's just me. Maybe nobody else ever sat there and went like, "Oh, I hate all these new ranks." Maybe I'm like the only person who felt that way. Who knows? Um, SOCOM Combined Assault that released in November of 2006, so barely a year later. Barely a year later. It released with 21 total maps. It did what SOCOM 2 did, where it included all of the original maps from the prior game, um, plus 10 original maps. So it took all of the games from SOCOM 3, carried them over to SOCOM Combined Assault. I don't think the SOCOM 3 maps were altered in any way. I think they weren't altered at all. They were the same. Um, Later they included, or they came out at the same time. Maybe the DLC maps were already available, or maybe the DLC maps didn't come out until Combined Assault was already out. So they actually technically came out for SOCOM 3 and Combined Assault. I don't remember specifically, but the same DLC pack was available for both games because SOCOM 3 and Combined Assault were crossplay. You could play with each other on SOCOM 3 and Combined Assault. Um, the good about SOCOM Combined Assault, in my opinion, is that it was SOCOM 3 for the most part. It took almost everything from SOCOM 3. It didn't really do anything better per se than SOCOM 3 did, but they really took the SOCOM 3 game and carried it over. I felt like I oftentimes think of Combined Assault as a DLC, like a DLC on a disc that you had to pay full price for. So I guess that's not really that great of a deal. You get more maps, more guns, more characters, and a new campaign. I guess it could. I guess there's bigger ripoffs in the gaming industry than that. The bad about Combined Assault is they removed blood, which was at the time I don't think I even noticed, or I didn't care enough because I'm like, whatever, it's SOCOM. But over the last few years, once I got like more gameplay from SOCOM 3 and Combined Assault like back to back, where I really would play them at like one right after another, which I didn't do back in the day. Like SOCOM 3 came out, I played SOCOM 3. Combined Assault came out, I just migrated over and never went back to S3 because I'm like, why would I do that? Um, so I did notice now that the removal of the blood, not only is it less satisfying, like you shoot a person and in Combined Assault you see a cloud of dust. It's not even like, it doesn't feel like it's a cloud of dust that is just the same as SOCOM 3's blood but a different color. It just doesn't feel even the same. It feels less realistic, like what are you doing with a military shooter game, a competitive multiplayer shooter with guns and death and tanks and stuff, and they're like, let's take away blood. I don't get it. They wanted to lower the rating, I'm assuming, to appeal to a larger majority of people, maybe. I don't know. They also changed terrorist to mercenary, which was really a low key thing that I kind of annoyed me. But I think they were just being like PC, maybe. I guess people didn't like the terrorist name. I don't know for a fact, but I didn't like that. It was like a small thing that I was just like, that's annoying. Um, I feel like, and I feel like Combined Assault did not have as good of a hit detection as SOCOM 3 did. And that might be mental. It really might be in my head. Uh, because, like, when you shoot a person, you see a cloud of dust. Maybe it doesn't feel like you're hitting them as much. I feel like when I'm shooting at a person on Combined Assault, I have a lower chance of killing them than I did on SOCOM 3. And I feel like I hear people who agree with that. So I don't think I'm too crazy there. I feel like Combined Assault had worse hit detection. Or not worse, like the worst, but I feel like it was a downgrade in hit detection from SOCOM 3. Also, compared to SOCOM 3, I really felt like the maps were a downgrade. They really don't feel that memorable to me. I like them. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not sitting here like they were horrible, but when it's SOCOM 3 versus Combined Assault, where it's like their crossplay, I would prefer playing SOCOM 3 maps and getting the SOCOM 3 experience compared to the Combined Assault maps. I don't feel like the Combined Assault maps are such an upgrade that it warrants crossing over from what I feel like is a better hit detection in SOCOM 3 and the blood, you know. But again, it might be in my head. Might be in my head. Um, SOCOM Confrontation is the next SOCOM, released in October of 2008. So almost 2 years later again. It released with 7 maps. Um, 5 maps later added via DLC. So it started out with 7 base maps. Um, of those 7, Crossroads, Desert Glory, and Frostfire were beautifully remastered, in my opinion. They look great. They really did look great. They're like very true to the design overall. Some tweaks and stuff there, but I really like them a lot. And then the DLC they added actually Vigilance and Night Stalker and Blizzard. Also amazing looking. Like Confrontation did a wonderful job with how the maps look. And that's like one of the things I like most about it. The high definition graphics of SOCOM Confrontation. The game was beautiful, the maps were beautiful. Definitely the probably the best looking SOCOM in general. They brought back the fast time to kill, which anybody who really liked that from SOCOM 1 would have really appreciated that on SOCOM Confrontation. It just feels nice to be able to shoot a guy or an enemy person a few times and kill. When they die, that feels great. If they don't die, that's frustrating. But overall, faster time to kill and a realistic experience overall. Slant 6, which was not Zipper Interactive, of course, they made SOCOM Confrontation, and I feel like what they decided to do was they wanted to take Confrontation closer to the SOCOM 1 roots, where the game was a little bit more realistic and less arcadey. And when I say arcadey, I mean like faster character movement and things of that nature. So in Confrontation, they wanted to take that, but take it a step further by making it almost too realistic. Almost too realistic. Slower character movement. Um, they did add sprint, which was something that is really controversial. I don't think it's a big deal, but a lot of people, there's a large group of people who really like hate sprint, almost like crazy much so. I guess I never really got how big of a deal the sprint was, but there's people who really like hate it. Um, that being said, SOCOM Confrontation had a lot of bugs. It had a lot of bugs, hackers, cheaters. Nothing that was really, nothing that really the other SOCOMs were free of. But I felt like they were more noticeable in Confrontation, mostly because it like released that way. I feel like Confrontation was released almost in like a development mode. Like it wasn't ready for the market, so it came out with a ton of bugs, a ton of problems in a game. Um, just almost feel like a game that was pushed out too early. I also felt like the hit detection, which I was just saying, like, oh, the fast time to kill is great. I feel like for me, the hit detection is really sporadic. Like, I'll have a person dead to rights, and I can't kill them. Which I know you can sit here and be like, well, maybe you're bad at the game, but it's like I've played a lot of SOCOM, I've played a lot of shooters. I know when I'm in a position to kill a person, and when I start lighting them up and they turn around and kill me, I'm a little frustrated. Like, what do you want from me? It's really annoying. Um, so I feel like the hit detection on Confrontation is kind of sporadic, and you never know what you're gonna get. Um, Also, the low map count of Confrontation made it feel a little bland, and it got boring really fast. It in total had 12 maps, and you can get through those 12 maps total, and that's assuming you have the DLC. If you don't have the DLC, you only have 7 maps. So if you don't get that Cold Front DLC, your experience, you're actually cut down to a much lower variety of game than people with the Cold Front DLC get. So I feel like the map count was low. That being said, I did hear that they had plans of releasing like a jungle DLC, which is really disappointing because that probably meant you're gonna get who knows. Like I we'll talk about them in a moment, but you might have got some jungle DLC maps that didn't get remade in SOCOM 4. So I feel like if SOCOM Confrontation didn't release with so many problems and bugs and issues, that Confrontation would have had a higher map count. And who knows what else Slant 6 had planned. I really got to assume they had like really large plans for the game. But they clearly were spending a ton of time fixing bugs and stopping cheaters and hackers, which really took away from the experience. Next, you have SOCOM 4. SOCOM 4 released in April of 2011. So, 2.5 years later, not 3 years. It released with 10 maps. 7 were added later via 2 different DLC packs. So, unlike Confrontation, SOCOM 4 got 2 DLC packs instead of just one. Um, on release, it had Abandoned, which was a beautiful map. It looked really good on SOCOM 4. And in the DLC packs, they added Ruins and Bitter Jungle. I don't think it added any more original maps. I think those were the only maps from prior SOCOMs. The rest of them were new to SOCOM 4. The good of SOCOM 4 is the maps are beautiful, like I just mentioned. They look great. It really has my favorite campaign story. Not my favorite to play campaign, but if you like sit back and like watch it like a movie, SOCOM 4's story was pretty good. It had a much more emotional aspect to it. You felt more pulled in and interested. The prior SOCOMs, their campaigns were mostly your Navy SEALs um, stopped a terrorist, the bad guy, and there wasn't much to relate to, or there wasn't much that really like pulled you in that made you like feel or care for a character. They tried to do stuff like in Combined Assault, they tried to kill off a character, but I think SOCOM 4th campaign was the most appealing to me. Not the gameplay, the story. Um, the sharpshooter gun was pretty cool. A little controversial, but for the campaign, the sharpshooter gun was pretty cool. It brought a unique element to the game where you could actually use a gun and really just get something out of the game you never got from any other SOCOM. A new level of interactivity that really just wasn't available before. The Bomb Squad game mode was actually pretty cool. I feel like that's one of the things that when a person tells you what they liked about SOCOM 4, they pretty quickly mention Bomb Squad. It had a lot of bugs in Bomb Squad, but the concept was pretty cool. And if they fixed the bugs, I feel like it would have been even more popular than it was. Also, the game probably would have had better luck if it wasn't titled SOCOM. The bad, you know, imagine me like taking a scroll and just like unraveling it and it just like unraveled across the room. Because SOCOM 4 had a lot of bad. It, in essence, was a third person Call of Duty. It really played like it and it looked like it. It had kill streaks, which was ridiculous. kill a few people in a row. You can call an airstrike or a radar or whatnot. I hated kill streaks. The concept of them was really annoying because I really didn't like them in Call of Duty. And then you put them in SOCOM, it didn't feel right, and it didn't look right either. You also had dual primaries. I feel like a lot of people forget about that. You had dual primaries. You could have an assault rifle and a shotgun, or a submachine gun and a sniper rifle, or, like any real variation of it, which really wasn't a SOCOM aspect. It didn't exist in any other SOCOM before this, at least not on console. It just didn't feel natural. It didn't feel right. I did not like it. It felt weird. Also, I'm pretty sure SOCOM 4 had increased health. Either it had increased health or it had worse hit detection. I'm not sure which one. If like either the enemy was taking more damage, they're sponging, or you weren't hitting them. I don't know. I also really hated the Call of Duty like arcade animation where you shoot a person and it's like 5 points for a kill, 5 points for a headshot. That I noticed that immediately, and it was just like such a turn off. I was like, what? This isn't anything like any SOCOM. Like shooting a guy, I don't want this like little instant gratification of like you got 5 points. I hated that. That really annoyed me. Um, just didn't look good in my opinion. Awkward character movement. If you don't remember, or if it's been a long time since you played, your character felt really weird to walk around. It like didn't feel natural. Also, the camera was too close to your character. It was like in his back. Like I felt like the character took up like almost like the lower third of your screen. It was like looking around your character. It was like a third person shooter with like the worst aspects of third person shooter. In the prior SOCOMs, it was pulled back. The camera was pulled back. So you could see around your character really pretty easily. But in SOCOM 4, it was like you're like watching from a GoPro on their back. It was so annoying. It was like it wanted you to see through the player. Again, like you're the first person shooter, you know? The game almost released without a classic mode. I didn't realize how many people weren't aware of this. A lot of people didn't realize that SOCOM 4 almost came out without one life per round, 11 rounds per match game modes. It came really close. I was on the forums every day following SOCOM 4, and I remember they were like showing gameplay of it, and we're like, hey, how come that looks like a respawn or a ranked respawn or something? I don't remember these specifics, but I remember we caught on that it didn't look like it had classic mode. And the developers were like, oh, yeah, well, that isn't in the SOCOM. And we were pissed. Like, as you imagine, you're taking like you're gutting one of the most essential aspects of SOCOM and trying to make SOCOM 4 a ranked respawn like Call of Duty. Just another example of how much they were trying to mimic Call of Duty. Um, we complained, and they obviously added classic mode. I hated that they called it classic mode because I felt like it was like a slap in the face. Like that's not classic mode. That's SOCOM. Call the ranked respawn something else, but no, they called it classic mode. Kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but it was in there at least, right? At least it was in there. Snap to cover. I don't know if I feel like most people remember that. Your character, not only could your character snap to cover, but while they're snap to cover, you had like an increased field of view, and you could aim your reticule at a person, snap up, shoot them, and drop back down, and that person essentially had no shot. They were just like dead because you could aim at them and have the absolute advantage, and they were just deer in headlights. It was easy kill. I almost forgot about that. I just remembered that on the fly. That was awful. Um, Demo mode, easily the most popular mode in all the SOCOMs. Demolition wasn't released on release day. It came out as a paid DLC. Zipper, who made SOCOM 4, I didn't mention that yet. For anybody who didn't realize that, Zipper made SOCOM 4. Demolition released as a paid DLC. Zipper wanted you to pay for the most popular mode in all of SOCOM. That being said, it was free under certain circumstances. I don't remember the details. Maybe it was free because of some game bugs. Maybe it was free because SOCOM 4 came out and like 2 or 3 days later the PlayStation Network went down for like 23 days or whatever. Maybe that's why it was free. I don't remember. But it was free. I didn't pay for it. I don't think I paid for it. I'm pretty sure it's free. Correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong in the comment section below. Tell me if I'm wrong. Another bad thing is the sharpshooter gun, which I know I had that in good, but I had it in good for the campaign. It was bad because you could use the sharpshooter gun in the multiplayer. That's silly. That's like really dumb. It didn't feel at all like SOCOM. It felt very abnormal. And I'm sure I could sit here and just like nitpick and give you more problems and more bads all day long. But the biggest crime of all from SOCOM 4, the biggest bad of them all, is most likely the fact that its poor performance and reviews is likely the reason why Sony hasn't made a new SOCOM. Which, if that's the reason, which a lot of people believe is, if that's the reason why there's not a new SOCOM, then not only does that make SOCOM 4 the worst SOCOM because it's the reason why we haven't got a new SOCOM, and I mean, I hope we do get a new SOCOM. I'm optimistic, but who knows what's going to happen. But SOCOM 4 may be the problem. I also feel like if that's the reason, that's just unfair. SOCOM 4 should not be the measuring stick for whether or not we want a new SOCOM. We didn't want SOCOM 4. SOCOM 4 wasn't SOCOM. Like I said, it's a third person Call of Duty. You know, nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. That's all the console SOCOMs. Now, my ranking of them from worst to first. My least like SOCOM doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game. However, it is SOCOM 4. SOCOM 4 is my least liked, worst ranked SOCOM on console. If I included handheld SOCOMs, probably would still be ranked the worst for really all the reasons I just told you a minute ago. That being said, they are working to revive SOCOM 4, so it's very possible that in the relatively near future, or at least at some point, SOCOM 4 will be playable again online. As much as I rag on it, I will play it, just for the experience. I would be curious to see how people today react to SOCOM 4. You know, they maybe it's received better than it was received back in 2011, or maybe they still hate it. Who knows? Number 4, my next one is Combined Assault. Not saying this is really a bad thing because I did like Combined Assault, but Combined Assault is basically SOCOM 3 DLC. It's SOCOM 3 without the blood, with worse hit detection, more maps, but not even as good maps in my opinion. But I put it as 4th just because something has to be there. Number 4 is Confrontation. Confrontation is number 4 because while it's a really good looking SOCOM, it's really realistic. The gunplay is really good. I really just don't tend to have that great of a time playing it. I can have fun, but when I'm having fun, I don't think it's me having fun with the game. It's me having fun with the people or the team that I'm playing with or my friends or whatever the case may be. And it's not so much the game that I'm enjoying; it's um, the conversations and the entertainment I'm getting from the people that I'm playing with. So I don't think it's really confrontation gets credit for it. I think the people I'm with get credit for when having fun on confrontation. Which, to be honest, this is probably how it would have been 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when SOCOM Confrontation was out on the server. Even back then, I played it when it first came out, and after a little while, I just fell out of it. I don't know if I fell out of it because of hackers and cheaters or whatever the case may be, but I did stop playing it back then, and I never really picked it up again until it revived in January of 2021. The game does look good, the maps look good, but I just get frustrated with when I get into a gunfight with people and I know how to kill a person, but for some reason I struggle with it oftentimes, and I can't really place my finger on it. You can sit there and be like, "Well, Ray the Dak, you're bad. That's why you can't. That's why you sometimes have difficulty killing people." It's like I don't think it's that because I know how to kill people in SOCOM. I've been doing it for a very long time. I think it's just it plays differently from the rest of the SOCOMs. SOCOM Confrontation compared to 1, 2, 3 and Combined Assault, Confrontation's a very different SOCOM from all of them. It's a big, not big departure, but it's a departure from the original SOCOM styles. Um, Also, while it is a very pretty SOCOM, I feel like that actually has a negative impact on things like frame rate. I feel like since there's so much detail, it actually knocks the frame rate down, which bothers my eyes. I don't know why it bothers my eyes. I don't know if it's because I'm used to much higher frame rate games on PC or because the PS2 SOCOMs are such lower quality detail that you don't notice bad frame rate. I don't know what it is, but Confrontation can bother my eyes when I play it sometimes. I find it hard to focus at times. Um, 3 is SOCOM 1. SOCOM 1 is amazing, and I really enjoy SOCOM 1. And I really appreciate SOCOM 1 for what it's done for me in my life, which is starting the SOCOM franchise. The reason why it's the third SOCOM on my list is because it is basically SOCOM 2. SOCOM 1 and 2 are very similar, almost the same game. SOCOM 3 and Combined Assault are basically the same game, in my opinion. Number 2 is SOCOM 3. My second favorite SOCOM is SOCOM 3. It's a fun SOCOM. I like the hit detection. I like the gameplay, the story, and the maps. In the grand tier of all the SOCOMs, I just like the way SOCOM 3 played. And if I could only have, before I even get there, my number 1 most favorite SOCOM, SOCOM 2. The reason why SOCOM 2 is my favorite is not only does it feel nostalgic, because it is the first SOCOM I ever played, I just love the way it plays. It feels just so good to me. I love the music. They all really have good music. Like SOCOM, in general, props to Sony, Zipper, Slant 6, what have you. They know how to make good music. Some better than others, but I really love SOCOM 2. They just feel the most nostalgic to me. I love the maps. I love the gameplay. I love the characters. I just love everything about SOCOM 2. It can be a frustrating game, absolutely. But if I could only have one SOCOM, it would be SOCOM 2. And I always go back to it, and I always love it. And when I play it, I just feel like these wave of memories and everything just wash over me. And it's such a great feeling. Um, that being said, how did you feel about my rankings? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm crazy? Am I completely wrong? What are your rankings? let me know in the comments. I hope you tell me. So please, in the comment section, say, this is how I feel, or you're wrong, or I agree, or this is my opinion, whatever, you know. Please tell me how you feel. I hope you enjoyed this video. And like I mentioned earlier, if you would like to support me, then please give this video a thumbs up and share it. Share it wherever. Show it to your friends. Show it to somebody out on the street. You know, I don't care. Just share it. You know, the more that you share it, the more exposure SOCOM and myself gets. And SOCOM and myself really appreciate that. And if you like more content, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. Well, that's everything. Let me know if you liked this format of video. I did enjoy this atmosphere. It felt more casual and relaxed. That's all, folks. G up.